I didn't walk into that bookstore looking for meaning. I walked in because I didn't want to go home yet. It was one of those days where nothing was technically wrong, but everything felt off. You know that quiet kind of heaviness? The kind that doesn't scream for attention, but sits with you anyway. I'd been carrying it for weeks, maybe longer if I'm being honest. So I did what I always do when I don't want to think too hard. I wandered, and somehow my feet led me into this small bookstore tucked between a bakery and a flower shop. The kind of place that smells like paper and coffee, with soft music playing just loud enough to make silence feel less intimidating. I told myself I'd just browse for a few minutes, clear my head, be around something gentle. That was the plan. I remember picking up random books without really reading them, just flipping pages, letting my eyes skim sentences without absorbing anything. It was comforting in a strange way, like being surrounded by thoughts that weren't mine. That's when I noticed him. He stood out immediately, not because he was loud or disruptive, but because he looked completely lost. He was maybe 16 or 17, hovering awkwardly near a display table labeled something like "Gifts for Dad." And in his hands, he was holding this mug. I still remember it clearly. It said, "World's Okayest Dad," and he was staring at it like it held the answer to a question he didn't know how to ask. He kept picking it up, putting it down, then picking it up again, like maybe it would magically become the right choice if he just gave it enough time. There was something about the way he moved, hesitant, unsure, almost nervous, that made me pause. I didn't mean to get involved. I really didn't. But before I could stop myself, I heard my own voice say, "Bold choice." He looked up, startled at first, then let out this small, awkward laugh. "Yeah," he said. I can't tell if it's funny or just kind of sad. I smiled a little. Depends on the dad, I guess. And that was it. That was the moment everything shifted. He didn't go back to browsing. Instead, he stayed right there, holding the mug, like he was debating whether to trust me with something. "I don't really know what I'm doing," he admitted after a second. There was no performance in his voice, no attempt to sound cool or detached, just honesty, raw and immediate. And for some reason, that made me stay. "What's the occasion?" I asked. "His birthday," he said. Then he hesitated like there was more. "But it's not really about that." I didn't push. I just waited. And after a moment, he continued. "We didn't really talk for a few years," he said. "Me and my dad. Things were weird." He shrugged like that was enough explanation, but it wasn't. Not really. Still, I understood. You don't need details to recognize distance. "And now?" I asked. "We're trying again," he said. "Not we fixed things, not everything's better. Just trying." And somehow that felt more real than anything else he could have said. We stood there for a second, both looking at the mug like it had suddenly become symbolic. "It's just," he went on, rubbing the back of his neck, "he's not really a birthday guy. He doesn't care about gifts. But I feel like I should do something, you know?" I nodded. Yeah, I knew. Not because I had the exact same situation, but because I understood what it feels like to want to say something without knowing how, to want to reach across a gap and not be sure if the other person is going to meet you halfway, or at all. So I said gently, maybe don't go for something that tries to be funny. He looked down at the mug again. "Yeah," he said quietly, "that's what I was thinking." And that's how we ended up walking around the store together. It wasn't planned. It wasn't even intentional. It just happened. We moved from one section to another, picking things up, putting them down, talking in that easy, slightly awkward way strangers do when they're not really strangers anymore. I suggested books at first, but he shook his head. "He doesn't read like that," he said. "At least, I don't think so." Then we looked at novelty stuff, gadgets, quirky gifts, but nothing felt right. Everything felt too impersonal or too forced. And you could tell he was overthinking it. Not in a dramatic way, in a careful way. Like this mattered more than he wanted to admit. At some point, we ended up near a shelf of journals, simple ones. Some leather-bound, some cloth-covered, some minimal, some more decorative. He picked one up absent-mindedly, flipping through the blank pages. And something changed. It was subtle, but I saw it. His posture shifted. His expression softened. "What about this?" I said. He didn't answer right away. "He writes sometimes," he said after a moment. Not confidently, not like he was sure, more like he was remembering something. "Like notes," he added, "or random stuff." I nodded. "That could be good. It's personal, but not overwhelming." He let out a small breath. "Yeah, not cheesy," he said. We both laughed a little at that. He kept holding the journal, didn't put it back this time. Then he found a pen, a nice one, not overly fancy, but solid, something that felt intentional. And just like that, it clicked. You could see it on his face, that quiet certainty. "This feels right," he said, and I smiled. "Then it probably is." We went to the register together, though we didn't really need to. It just felt natural at that point. He paid, thanked me, more than once, and I brushed it off. "It was nothing," I said, and I meant it. At least I thought I did, because in my mind it was nothing. Just a small interaction, 20 minutes of my day, a random moment. I wished him luck. He smiled, and we went our separate ways. And that should have been the end of it. I didn't think about it much after that. Not right away. Life moved on. Work, routines, the usual noise. That quiet heaviness I'd walked into the bookstore with didn't magically disappear, but it shifted a little, softened around the edges. I didn't connect it to him at the time, but maybe I should have. A few weeks later, I was at this small street fair. The kind with local vendors, handmade stuff, food stands, music playing somewhere in the background. I was standing in line for coffee, half scrolling on my phone, half people watching, just existing. That's when I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned around, and there he was again. For a second, I didn't recognize him. Context matters more than we think. But then he smiled, and it clicked. "You helped me find that journal," he said, and suddenly I remembered everything. "Oh my God, yeah," I said, a little surprised. "Hi." He looked different. Not in a dramatic way, but lighter, more certain. "I've been hoping you'd run into each other again," he said, and I laughed a little. "That's kind of wild." "Yeah," he said, "it is." There was a pause, and then he said something I didn't expect. "It worked." I tilted my head. "The gift?" He nodded. "My dad, he didn't say much at first, just kind of looked at it." I waited. "He teared up," he added, and something in my chest tightened. Not painfully, just deeply. He went on to explain. Apparently, his dad hadn't expected anything. No big gesture, no acknowledgement. Just another day. But when he handed him the journal and the pen, something shifted. He said it was thoughtful, the kid told me, which he doesn't say stuff like that. And then came the part I didn't expect. "He's been writing in it," he said. I blinked. "Really?" "Yeah," he said, smiling, but not like just for himself. I frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" He hesitated, just for a second. "Letters," he said. "To me." I didn't say anything. I couldn't.
Because suddenly that small moment in the bookstore didn't feel small anymore. He leaves them in my room sometimes, or gives them to me when we go out. You go out together? I asked. He nodded. Once a week, we take walks. It's kind of awkward. He laughed a little. But we talk. There was something so real about the way he said that. Not perfect, not polished, just real. We're trying, he added. The same words as before, but this time they felt different, stronger, more grounded. He would never have done that if I'd gone with the mug, he said, smiling. And I laughed. Because yeah, he was probably right. We stood there for a moment, both kind of absorbing it. Then he said something I didn't expect. Thank you. Simple, direct, but heavy.